Joining us exclusively here on Wilmington's Morning News this morning, as he does each and every month, U.S. Senator Ted Budd. A big day up in Washington, D.C., Senator Budd. The president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, making his third trip to the United States. Are you meeting with him today? Are you going to be part of any of those meetings?
Yeah, in about 25 minutes, he's going to be just down the hall here. So I'll be heading over there to listen to what he has to say. And I think Republicans are doing a good job at sticking together and saying, we understand your concern, Mr. President Zelensky, about your border, but we need to deal with ours first in this southern border. We got 10,000 people a day coming across. This is record numbers in absolute history. People not just from Mexico or Central America or South America, but people from all over some of the 193 countries around the world. So it is tragic what we're seeing, and we got to deal with ours first. You can make a case for me to want to support Ukraine. I'm not putting that off the table, but I am putting our own country as the first priority.
Why is that such a hard thing? Whenever this conversation comes up, Senator Budd, then the conversation is, well, you just don't have any compassion, right? You don't care about the people of Ukraine. Why is that how the conversation always leads? Why can't we focus on our country first? I mean, it's not like we've already given them $200 billion worth of aid. I think we've done a fair amount over in Ukraine. Why is that where the conversation always goes?
I think if you want to get back to the root of it, it's what I believe, you believe, and I imagine most every one of your listeners believes, in that we are an exceptional country. And if you dismiss the borders, which are happening right now de facto by the left, then you remove American exceptionalism, because you begin to, we're no longer our founding fathers. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. And so when those get effectively erased, which Joe Biden's doing, the whole left is for, the 51 senators that on the other side. Once you get rid of borders, you remove exceptionalism, and I believe that they don't believe in that as a core. We're one nation under God. I don't believe that they largely believe in that. So it's essentially trying to remove what makes us distinct as a country.
Let's talk about the U.S.-Mexico border. The stats seemingly are something out of a movie. They don't seem realistic at all when you look at the numbers of gotaways at the southern border. I have a terrible story from this weekend. A 16-year-old cheerleader in southern Texas murdered by an illegal immigrant. He now facing capital murder charges. The impacts are real, Senator Budd, and it's amazing to me that so many on the political left just want to continue to bury it under the rug and ignore it.
Yeah, they just get rid of those as priorities. I'm pulling up a text here from a sheriff just north of Charlotte. Enough fentanyl was stopped this weekend. He sent me a picture of it, and it was enough fentanyl to kill. Because remember, it only takes 2 milligrams. So if you take vitamin C during cold season, usually a vitamin C is 500 milligrams in one pill. But 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a lethal dose. There's enough fentanyl in this traffic stop, one stop just north of Charlotte, to kill 27 million people. Unbelievable. And it's heartbreaking. And that comes right across our porous, open southern border that the Democrats won't do anything about.
Now, of course, there's a political element to this as well. Obviously, we know about the real life implications as you're talking about, either on the drug trade or crime as a whole. I do wonder, though, Senator Budd, as we transition into 2024 and the rhetoric gets hotter and hotter surrounding that election, you assume that at least any Democrats, including the president, are going to have to start addressing this as a serious issue. Can they continue to ignore it?
I don't see how they can, because you're getting people that they aren't political ideologues. They haven't been really paying attention. They're just trying to make their life work, which are most Americans. I mean, they pay enough attention to make their life work, but they're trying to put groceries on the table. And now people are going like, my kids are at risk. I'm at risk. My neighbor's kids are at risk. And they start to care because they think it used to be somebody else's problem at the border. And now they realize it's their problem. And this is people that are moderates, they're independents, and I tell you what, that's why Biden has the lowest numbers ever since Jimmy Carter. Only Jimmy Carter's numbers were lower. And it's not just the border. It's energy. It's all those things like putting groceries on the table that has been made so difficult under a Biden administration. And I think people are starting to wake up to it. I don't see how they can win. But again, look, we can't take any of this for granted. We have to ask for people's votes. We have to prove that we can run the country and we can make people's lives easier. And that's what we're about.
U.S. Senator Ted Budd joins us here on Wilmington's Morning News. There was a House Committee on Homeland Security report that came out a couple of weeks ago in regards to the border. Senator Budd, they estimate that American taxpayers are spending around $451 billion a year for services provided to the record number of illegal aliens and immigrants coming into this country. $500 billion, that's unreal.
And that's not just federal taxes and federal dollars, that runs up our deficit. That's why these cities like New York, Chicago, these blue cities are starting to scream, because it's their tax dollars. It's their local property taxes which are funding this, and their local fees, and they don't have enough. So that's what I mean when you say regular folks and those that are on the other side of the aisle who used to say, "Oh, welcome, we welcome all people," and but now they realize it's costing them. They're fine when it costs, a red state like Texas or maybe in Florida, but when it affects them, now they start to scream. And so that's what Joe Biden's trying to figure out, how to navigate through this when he's losing his own people in these so-called sanctuary cities.
Let's talk about a little bit of divide within the Democrat Party. I'm sure you saw the back and forth exchange with Elise Stefanik and the heads of a couple of colleges last week. They would not say publicly whether calling for the genocide of an entire group of people goes up to the name hate speech. React to that if you would.
I hope that, I know you have watched it, I've watched it. I hope that all your listeners watch it. It's about a 4-minute clip of Elise Stefanik interviewing MIT, Harvard, and UPenn presidents. And they did a horrible job. They would not denounce anti-Semitism and hate speech, and especially calling for the genocide of Jews. And they just gave a lawyered up answer. It was horrible. It had no compassion. And thank goodness we got 1 out of 3, the president of University of Pennsylvania there in Philadelphia, to resign. We need 2 out of 3. Harvard and MIT's presidents should also resign for that horrible woke answer. You can see that wokeism is not about tolerance. It's fascism. And you could see that it's coming from the left. It's not coming from the right, as they declare. It's coming from the left. And you could see at the ground zero these woke Ivy League institutions that are generating this anti-Semitism and tolerating it. And it's unforgivable.
I think when you compare and contrast some of the things that go on in college campuses, it's pretty eye-opening. If, God forbid, you misgender somebody on a college campus, you are likely to be expelled from that school or pushed aside as because you called somebody a he or she, whatever it might be. Yet you can call for the genocide of an entire group of people. And these highly educated individuals pulling down incredible salaries cannot say definitively that that's hate speech. Senator Budd, unless it turns into conduct, at that point, I guess they would stand up against it.
Absolutely. Again, go back and watch that video. And here's what's good about a very dark moment that Elise Stefanik was calling out, rightfully so. What's good is that the fights are on the surface. People that, again, like we talked about a minute ago, that typically are just trying to make their life work. When they see this, they realize that the fight is now on the surface so that we can deal with it. It's bringing people over to the conservative side to say, look, the conservatives are the one that makes sense. The people that believe that America is an exceptional country. They believe in our founding fathers and the values, and that it's good for all people, and it is better for humanity, and it leads to human flourishing, or at least the conservatives' ideals do. Then they're starting to see what the left is supporting and how crazy it is and how it hurts people, even to the point of genocide, which we're seeing not called out by the left and not condemned by the left.
Are you growing continually concerned with what I would call the rapid indoctrination that's taking place on publicly funded colleges all across the country?
Absolutely. But what I really like is that the donors that have largely funded this and looked the other way, they're going, not my dollars, not anymore. And many of these colleges are funded. I mean, the billions of dollars in their endowments many of those are very successful, financially successful Jewish individuals that have contributed to this, at which point they've taken those dollars and used it to promote anti-Semitic stances. And I think their dollars are getting pulled away, and they're saying, look, I'm not going to endow this. I'm not going to donate. Even people that may not be from Jewish ethnicities or background are saying, like, I am not supporting this. So I think the fight is now on the surface, and these institutions are going to start hurting.
Talk a little bit more about this fight being on the surface. I struggle trying to convey this. Obviously, the folks that listen to talk radio, they are in the 1% of those informed and following things that go on day in and day out. Senator Budd, that's not the vast majority of the population. And we have to be willing to bring these conversations to the front line, let it boil to the top so that, as you noted, regular everyday people who are trying to put their kids through school, run their small business, work their lives, they see the insanity that's going on.
They do, and I think that's why Biden's numbers are, as low as Jimmy Carter's, because people are going like, "This is horrible." Look, I think this was not who Joe Biden was. I don't think he was ever a moderate when he was in the Senate. They claimed that so people would vote for him, but he never really was. He was an old school liberal, but I think because of his lack of competence, they have, the inmates are running the asylum in his White House. When it comes to the border, it's not staffed by policy people, it's staffed by activists. And I think his whole White House is chock full of activists, and they are running him ragged. And things he probably, if he was strong enough, may just tap the brakes on, but now he's not competent to do that. And so I think that's why his numbers are so low. And I think that's why these people, they aren't politically skilled, but they surface this stuff. And you can see their radical roots and how bad their ideology is. Hopefully we can win. We can say, look, we're the party of common sense. We're the party of human flourishing. If you want your life to be safer and better and more prosperous, please vote Republican. Please vote for conservative Republicans, because we're going to make your life better and safer, whether it's the border or whether it's college campuses or whether it's being strong internationally and preventing wars, which, by the way, you may have not liked the mean tweets of President Trump, but we weren't having Putin invade Ukraine. We weren't having China saber rattle at Taiwan. There was peace around the world with a tough, strong president, and that's what we need again.
It's amazing what a few years can do and change pretty rapidly. Senator Ted Budd joins us this morning. One of the important things you do is interface with constituents and help them with issues that they might have with the federal government. How do they get in touch with you in your office?
Yeah, go to our website. Look, we've got an office down near you in Wilmington. We've got them, a couple of around the state. So I look forward to seeing you folks. We've got a great team down there that can help you with whether it's Social Security or Veterans Administration. Go to bud.senate.gov. So bud, BUDD.senate.gov. And you can start right there. It's got our phone numbers. It's got whatever you need. You could put a message in, and we'll get back to you. And again, we look forward to helping you however we can.
Senator Budd, thanks for the time as always. Merry Christmas to you. We'll catch up in the new year.